This perp back with another video, and I finally got around to watching this Barney documentary called I Love You, You Hate Me. This is a two-part documentary series that is playing on Peacock right now. I thought it was like Hulu for some odd reason, but it was Peacock. And yeah, I've been wanting to kind of talk about this because when I saw the trailer for this, it almost felt like something um like out of a horror movie or something like that. It was very eerie, very creepy, and I was just like, what the hell is this? This is so fascinating. Where, Barney's getting all these death threats and stuff like that. But what's fascinating about this documentary is the amount of information that we get that I wasn't privy to, just because, like, I didn't look anywhere beyond, Barney growing up, like as far as who's the creator and just all the drama behind the scenes and the effects that Barney had on just pop culture in general. This documentary focuses on a lot of different things, like not only the creator, how she created this character Barney, and the impact that Barney has, like I said, on pop culture, what was running at the time, and what it was like, what was its competition, and just what it spawned, and a lot of the hate that came out of that. Because when you have a character like Barney that all he represents is love and just sharing and caring, you're also going to have the complete opposite of that, which is hate, that it's going to kind of try to combat love. And that's the whole point of this whole documentary. But the things that I didn't know about is just the inception of Barney, which they focus on in part one, which is called I Love You, and just how Cheryl Leach pretty much created this character for her son to have a friend. And she did a very like underground type of way of getting these things out. The original Barney looked really creepy, to be honest, and had a really weird design. But obviously, once it got picked up by bigger networks and stuff, it got a bigger budget and stuff. But the fact that she passed this around to people that she known, like, people would buy these little, VHS tapes, and then it would get in the hands of like one of these TV executives or something like that, and it just become this worldwide phenomenon. It's really crazy to me. And it's fascinating because the most fascinating thing about this is the personal stuff that they go into with Cheryl's life, her husband, her son, Patrick. The stuff with Patrick, they really kind of stretch all the way into part two. You don't exactly know what happened, but they keep talking about how, Barney was almost like a sibling, became like this, an actual entity for Patrick, and he became jealous over time, and he was very troubled, which led him into doing some really crazy shit. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I really like the setup for this documentary, like with part one, just giving us some backstory on just the history and how Barney just came to be, and just who was the man inside the suit. There was one that was the original, but he ended up leaving because he wanted to go into the military. The one that I'm familiar with is David Joyner, and this dude is kind of really odd. He's definitely an odd kind of character. Outside of the suit, he was like this, I guess, sex guru or something like that, whatever you would want to call him. I don't know what you would call him, but he ended up being Barney for like 10 years, and they kind of give you his backstory and whatnot, and it's kind of interesting. Like I said, the first part is a little bit more lighthearted than when it kind of transitions into part two, where you get into more of the darker stuff and a lot of the hate messaging they used to get, a lot of death threats, and it really reflects on how people react to certain things that they love, like certain fandoms. Like, look at what's going on with Star Wars, look at what's going on with Marvel, or just anything that's beloved by like an older generation. Just look at how they kind of react to it. That's very comparable to what was going on with Barney, that you had clubs of actual people just that hated Barney, that despised Barney, literally called themselves like the anti Barney Club or something like that. Super ridiculous. The only one that was really cool was like this Jihad, the Jihad destroys Barney the dinosaur or something like that. I would like to see a film based on that, because just the explanation of that just sounds really dope. I always thought that Barney would be an interesting kind of horror character, since we're kind of getting into the stage of everybody trying to make like a horror character based on beloved child characters and stuff like that. So I'd be all for Barney getting that treatment. But anyways, what you end up finding out though about Patrick is it's very sad. It's very sad because it's like his mom is this like big star, and then, you know, it seemed like he felt like he was being ignored, which made him act out in other ways and just getting in trouble and stuff. But what ends up happening is like this story was so crazy when they broke it down. I'm gonna try to do my best to kind of explain it in the shortest way I can explain it. So pretty much, he was having beef with his neighbor, but his neighbor was really the one instigating, which kind of triggered him into thinking that like this dude might be a threat to my family. So he ends up shooting dude, and this guy Patrick has to do some time. But I don't even remember this being really breaking news or anything like that. And they kind of go into the explanation of that and where his psyche was at that time, and it makes sense. And that happens to a lot of child stars and stuff like that, or people that have famous celebrity parents and stuff. You never know what these kids are going through. You know, you think they're spoiled and rich, but you don't know what's really going on in their head mentally. And I just found this whole documentary to be really fascinating from start to finish. I prefer part one just because it felt a little bit more gritty, and just they talk about a lot of interesting things, like when Cheryl ended up leaving the show and how everything kind of went downhill. And it's also kind of mind-blowing to me that there's a generation that has not grown up with Barney. You know, my nephew, he's about 11 now. He was born in 2011. So he never grew up watching Barney and stuff, but that's just fascinating to me, and just the parallels and how just people are in fandom in general, and just them even talking about the early inceptions of internet, and just that's how they would get the hate mail. But now look on Twitter, everybody has a voice now. Everybody can voice their opinions or just say the nastiest shit to people and not have to face any consequences. And it's just, what was happening at this time with Barney is no different from what's happening with like Star Wars and all these different franchises and stuff like that. It's no different from the people that think everything is woke and just don't like women being in lead roles and stuff like that. So things like this will continuously happen throughout history. You know, right now it's just, like I said, the anti-woke stuff, and in 10 years or so, it's going to be something else that people are going to collectively hate or just dislike. People are going to love things, you know, and it's just the nature of the society that we live in, especially with social media. Things get amplified. But moral of the story, definitely go check out this documentary if you have Peacock, man. I think there's a lot to kind of enjoy about this, and also getting a lot of the backstory of some of the people that were on the cast at that time, because not a lot of people don't even know who those people are, but they also kind of went through their own share of issues after the show. Like one dude, the first thing he said was, "Once I left Barney, the streets was calling." That was the funniest shit I've ever heard. But his story was definitely tragic, as like he fell into the crowd, into a wrong crowd, ended up getting shot and paralyzed and stuff, and he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And man, I just definitely recommend this documentary. But this has just been my little quick take on the documentary. Till next time, I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.